This is lesson 3.3, subtract integers. In this lesson, we are going to review the following skills and objectives. A, subtract integers. B, add and subtract integers. C, evaluate an algebraic expression by subtracting. And D, solve problems by subtracting integers. We are going to start with the general rules how to subtract integers. It is a little bit more complicated than adding integers, but in the end, any subtraction problem can be turned into the addition problem, and then we can use the same rules that we used for adding integers. To subtract integers, change it to an addition problem by inserting a plus sign in the following manner. If you subtracting two numbers, a minus b, you are going to split it apart and insert the plus sign before the second number. So your problem will look like a plus negative b. If you have a minus negative b, you are going to change the entire problem into the addition. So it would result into an a plus b. And if you have negative a minus b, you will keep the negative a, you will insert the plus sign before negative b, so you will have negative a plus negative b. That way you have three distinct cases. In the first one, you take in the positive number and adding to the negative number to it. In the second case, when you have double negative sign, you turn the entire problem into an addition of two positive numbers. And if you have two negative numbers with the two negative signs, in one in front of each number, you would split it apart into the addition of two negative numbers. One thing to keep in mind as we are embarking on the new rules, keep in mind that if the first number is larger than the second, you do not need to perform any extra work. For example, if you have to take 3 from 8, you have 8 minus 3. Clearly, the first number is larger than the second, so you just go perform your regular subtraction like you did with the whole numbers, 8 minus 3, which equals 5. So let's practice on some examples. We're going to simplify each expression, means we're going to find the answer for each expression. So we have 11 minus 7. The first number is greater than the second one. No special rules are needed, so all we need to do is take 7 from 11 to get 4. Okay. Now we're going to switch that problem around in part B. We're going to, now we have 7 minus 11. Because the second number is bigger than the first, it looks like we have to apply one of the three rules that we just learned about. So let's go ahead and double check which one that would look like. That is our first rule, a minus b. You have 7 minus 11, and you're breaking that into, you will insert the plus sign in front of negative 11, and then we're going to go from there. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite that as 7 plus negative 11, inserting the plus sign between the two numbers. So now it is an addition problem, and we did that before. The numbers have different signs, one positive and one negative. So my first step would be to decide on the sign for the answer. 11 is greater than 7, so that means that my answer is going to be negative. And then 11 minus 7 gives you a 4, so the answer is negative 4. You may have noticed that in part A, in example A, when we subtracted 11 minus 7, we got a 4, but when we did the opposite, 7 minus 11, we got negative 4. So the difference between 11 and the 7 is still the same numerical value, which is a 4, but in the first case it was positive because the bigger number was positive, and in the second it was negative because the bigger number was negative. Okay. So next one is 6 minus negative 7. This is our second case where we said if a minus negative b is going to be equal a plus b. So we change that into the addition problem. So we're going to change 6 plus 7. Anytime you see the double negative next to each other, not separated by any number, feel free to change that to a positive. We will learn the reason why when we do multiplication with integers, but for now you just need to remember that double negative gives you a positive sign, plus sign. Okay, so going forward, we have 6 plus 7, which gives you 13, and this part is done. We can move on to the next problem. Okay, so again, we have a semblance of the second problem and a third problem, second rule and a third rule in part D. So you have -7 minus -12. So first we're going to take care of the double negative sign by turning that into a positive sign. So you would have -7 plus 12. All right, now you can look at the two numbers. You adding -7 and 12. 12 has a bigger value and it's a positive number, so the answer is going to be positive. And then 12 minus 7 is going to give you a 5, positive 5. In part E, we have -17 minus 7 plus 4. So we have three numbers. We're still going to insert the plus sign into the subtraction problem so we can see better we can see better what we're doing. So start with the -17, insert the plus sign before -7. So you have plus, -7, and then plus 4. All right, so what it looks like now is that you're adding three numbers. You're adding -17, -7, and a positive 4. So we're going to do it one step at a time. I am going to add the first two numbers. -17 plus -7. Both numbers are negatives, so I keep the negative sign. I add the two values. So I get -24. Bring the 4 down. Double check that you have two numbers with different signs. One is a negative, one is a positive. The negative number has the bigger value. 24 is bigger than 4. So the answer is going to be negative. And then 24 minus 4, the difference between 24 and 4 is a 20. So the answer is -20. The next problem will have you do the order of operations. So we're going to do what's in parentheses first, and then we will do the subtraction. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to work on 3 minus 8. We're going to turn that into the addition problem. So it is 3 plus -8. Okay, you have a positive number, you have a positive number, and you have a negative number. Negative number has the bigger value. 8 is bigger than 3. So the answer is going to be negative. And then 8 minus 3 is a 5. So what's in parentheses? 3 minus 8 is -5. Let's go ahead and rewrite the problem. And instead of writing 3 minus 8, we're going to write -5 there. So we have 7. We haven't done anything with the negatives with subtraction yet. And then we have -5. Okay, so after we did what was in parentheses, we got -5. Now I have a double negative. The double negative turns into an addition. So I have 7 plus 5, and I can add these two numbers and get 12. So the answer to part F, 7 minus open parentheses, 3 minus 8, close parentheses, is 12. The last numerical problem before we move on to some application problems. So here we have two sets of parentheses. So we're going to do 16 minus 28 first. Then we're going to do 34 minus 27. And the last part that we're going to do is we're going to subtract those three. Again, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so let's look at 16 minus 28. So we have to turn this into the addition problem. So I'm going to split this apart, insert the plus sign, 16 plus negative 28. All right. So 28 is bigger than 16. So it's going to be negative answer. And then the difference between 28 and 16 is a 12. Okay. So now my problem looks like negative 12 minus, and then 34 minus 27 still in parentheses. So now I'm going to do my step 2. 34 minus 27, the first number is bigger than the second, so I don't need to insert the plus sign. I'm just going to subtract like I subtracted whole numbers. So 34 minus 27 will give me a 7. I'm going to rewrite this problem one more time so I can finish it up. So I have negative 12 minus 7. That's my step number 3. So step number 1, step number 2, and step number 3. Okay, so I am going to insert the plus sign. I have negative 12 plus negative 7. I'm adding two negative numbers, so I keep the sign. I keep the negative sign, and then 12 plus 7 gives me 19. So the answer to part G is negative 19. Now we're ready for some application problems. Application problems are your word problems. So in example 2, we solve each of the following application. On Thursday, the temperature in Spencer's Lake, Michigan was 22 Fahrenheit. By Friday, the temperature dropped 35 Fahrenheit. What was the temperature on Friday? So we start at 22 Fahrenheit and we dropped. That means we subtracted 35. So let's go ahead and write that problem. We had 22 where we started, and we need to subtract 35 to get the resulting temperature. So I'm going to insert the plus between the two numbers, 22 and negative 35. 22 plus negative 35. All right. 35 is the bigger value, so I'm going to have the negative result. And the difference between 35 and 22 is 13. So the resulting temperature on Friday is negative 13 Fahrenheit. All right, part B. At the first down, the Barons football team had the ball on their 20-yard line. On the next 3 downs, they lost 8 yards, gained 5 yards, and lost 6 yards. What was the yard line at the end of the 3rd down? So we have the starting point, which is a 20. We lost 8, we gained 5, and we lost 6. So we need to find the value. We need to find the value of this expression. So let's go ahead and start from left to right, because all you have is subtraction and addition. There is no, so you are just going to do the operations from left to right. 20 minus 8 gives you 12. So you have 12 plus 5 minus 6. So 12 plus 5 will give you 17. Still minus 6, and the 17 minus 6 gives you 11. So they finished up at the 11-yard line. Okay, next problem. Frank has $94 in his checking account. He writes a check for $110 and then gets paid $300. If the bank charges a $25 overdraft fee, what is the new balance in his checking account? All right, so we start with the $94. We wrote a check, so that means we subtract 110. We add, he gets paid, so he adds 300. But chances are, because he did not have enough to cover $110 check with a $94 balance, he got charged the $25 overdraft fee. That means the bank took 25. $25. All right, so that's our problem. Let's do one step at a time. 94 minus 110. So I'm going to insert the plus sign between the two numbers. 94 plus negative 110. Now I can treat this problem as an addition. I'm going to have a negative number. The difference between 110 and 94 is 16. So let's bring the rest of the numbers down for now. Negative 16 plus 300 minus 25, right? So I'm going to look at negative 16 plus 300. Okay, so 300 is the bigger value, so it's going to be a positive answer, and the difference between 300 and 16 is 284. So I have 284 minus 25. The first number is bigger than the second number, larger than the second number, so I don't need to insert any pluses in there. I just need to take 25 from 284. So I'm going to have 259. Okay. That concludes our lesson 3.3.